So, JJ Watt is a Arizona Cardinal. There will be a video on that sooner than later. I do have a sports channel, but it doesn't look like a lot of you guys are that interested. I think I'll try to branch out and do something else. But other than that, we had Raw. It was a bad show with at least a good ending. At least we had Elias dropping out again. Because they don't want to give the guy with charisma actual decent wins. Dude, I don't know why, man. Like, why don't you just have them squash Humberto Carrillo, the Lucha House Party? You know, teams that actually look, people that look beatable. Let him boost up his unlikability factor, and then you let Damian Priest beat him. Because he's a sought-after heel to beat. I don't know why it's so hard. I don't know why it's so hard. Plus, you give the other guy screen time. It's that easy to sum it up over a 3-hour show with like under 10-minute matches that are going to get one of the guys over. I promise you, it is not that hard. Drew McIntyre gets asked by The Miz to help over his match in an hour, then another hour, then another hour, until we actually had the main event. First of all, why an hour? What's such a rush when you get the opportunity anyway? Other than this, we had our grudge match. And this is so personal, even though McIntyre just kicked him out of nowhere. Then there was no other build. Then they had to push McIntyre's match at the Elimination Chamber to be a chamber match. Just so we can have an easy excuse how The Miz could even cash in. So Sheamus faced off against McIntyre. The match was okay. I'll give it that. The match was pretty good. Good, decent call out over the Celtic Cross, Irish Curse, that flying knee that barely gets a near fall, a cool little belly to belt. There were some cool spots. And after a near back and forth, it came off with an attempt over Brogue Kick, but the Claymore kick came off a bit faster for the finish. It was a really good match. It was a pretty decent opener. Some decent counters over from the Future Shock DDT. It was a good match. I'll give it that. Then we came back to garbage. It was Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax versus Naomi. And they had the backstage segment, like Naomi was that important that we're actually going to understand that this match is going to be an instant classic. Naomi's an obvious contender for nothing. She is a contender for nothing. Nobody has treated her like a congenial threat since back then on SmackDown. She's just now tagging with Jobber Lana with no semblance of a gimmick over their or character of their association with each other because they're both babyface. And then they come off with some reversals, some decent holds, the crappy leg drop. I think it ends with a Samoan drop after she had her over a little bit of a bear hug for longer than necessary. The match was a pointless squash match with no semblance other than having Naomi and Lana have an excuse to have some TV time. We also had the Hurt Business face off against Braun Strowman and his surprise tag team partner, and saying that Shane saying that Strowman has an issue over with an authority figure, not making this Shane because they don't want it to be fun, because already Shane coming around off the wetlock, freaking sweaty as hell. Like he just spent time over in a pit like they had back on World War II days, coming around. Well, it's gonna be. I'm dancing right now. It's gonna be you and Adam Pearce. Braun Strowman was doing primarily most of the work, separating most of Shelton and Cedric. I'm just gonna move over to the finish. The match ends over with the power slam. Shane keeps trying to persuade Strowman, waste a lot of time after the power slam was delivered over Shelton, trying to tag in Adam Pearce so he can get the pin, wasting too much time. The surprise roll up for the win. Is this the best way after you just forced him into a title shot the last week? So we devalue him back over to the mid card. I know they're trying to tease over probably a feud involving Strowman and Shane, so Shane can have an excuse to at least have some buys for WrestleMania or some crap like that. I just don't care about Strowman. He just comes around whining every freaking week and he keeps looking less impressive. Like, you're a big dude. You're the least interesting of anybody in the Wyatt family. You are a mid-carder even when you were a Universal Champion. Dude, I just don't understand. And they just have him in these things like he's supposed to be a main eventer. I just don't get it, bro. We had then a backstage segment involving Elias trying to persuade over a bit of a partnership involving Bad Bunny over their musical success because Apple Music success, global success, completely different from being popular and being mainstream. Other than that, it comes into a bit of butting heads. Elias comes around, of course, referencing the Super Bowl. Of course, he references over Tom Brady and how he didn't win the Grammy. That kind of doesn't work because it's a stock crowd they have over the audio. It doesn't feel that organic, even though we know Elias can actually get actual heat over with the crowd, and they kept with the claps all the freaking time over to just suck up some semblance of why are they in the rest hold for that long, and the Drew. It just comes around just looking inorganic. I know why they need to do it. Do they have some reason other than just hearing the mat sounds all the time? I understand, but dude, come on. It just felt lackluster. The match with Elias and Damian Priest was not bad. It was a pretty decent match. There were some cool spots. I thought it was a bit dragged over on the finish. Trying to do a springboard, nothing. It's just a lot of high knees, exploder suplex, a boot from the corner. Of course, it ends with the Falcon Arrow. And... hit the lights. I don't know why they named it that. It's just the Crossroads. It's just a Crossroads. There's not much into it, other than he does a little net cut. Then the match dragged for as necessary as it can be. I wish they just make Elias just rip off Jeff Jarrett and let him use the guitar, or hell, just let Riker try to interfere if something goes wrong. The match dragged. There were some cool spots, but the match dragged, and that was the major reason. It's just not necessary to have these over 10-minute matches with guys that we barely know. Especially Damian Priest just rushing over these matches. That's why I'm not liking how Raw is doing, man. This match could have been a bit better if they just summed up the time, make Elias pay for cheating, easy match, and it gets over Damian Priest. But nothing is making the heel look good, and I think Raw is really lacking in that. We also had The Miz defend his title when time was up. First, in the first hour, he faked a stomach problem, and then he ran away with the world title after 10 o'clock. So, at the main event, Miz has to defend his title. There was also Charlotte doing her promo, summing up most of the issues in her life because she's struggling. She has the most problems and says that she wants to challenge Asuka for the women's title. I practically am less interested over in the women's title chase because we know that we have a lack of star power. I don't want to see another match with Charlotte and Asuka again. People are going to compare that garbage to I'm not saying that they haven't had bad matches. These women are decent, but you're a SummerSlam match. You're not a Mania match. The magic with Asuka legitimately as being this badass Japanese girl that came around with a huge winning streak that even came over from NXT, it's gone now. Asuka's already irrelevant TV-wise. They have no story to compromise that other than they're just women ready to wrestle. It's just bland to me. It's not compelling me to watch. Shayna Baszler faced off against Charlotte. There is average interference, counters over with the leg grabs and stuff, trying to take out the arms of Charlotte. Nia Jax tried to get involved, pushed her out the way a multiple amount of times. It ends with the natural selection. Boring. Just boring matches, man. Some of these I know are going to be rematches, like Retribution against Lucha House Party and Riddle. Tell me, why are Lucha House Party getting more TV time than anybody else on the roster? They beat the Hurt Business in the 6-man tab, and they just job out later. when they have to actually have no Riddle on their side. And they don't even know what the affiliate or Riddle is other than they're cool with each other. Like, this is just a bad way to build up any semblance of a character and who would they don't mind to align with. What would Riddle do? Well, he's cool anyway, man. Even cool luchadors with racist stereotypical gimmicks. It's not like we actually have a history of that, bro. Oh, man. Retribution didn't even have any entrance. They were really that bad. Now to this day, with their rip-off shaky cam sanity triple XL entrance that they finally get jobbed out. It ends with an assisted shoulder elbow drop over Grand Metalik for the victory. Riddle come around just doing sprints and taking care of, I think, Mace and frickin' T-Bar and Slapjack. So it was just Lucha House Party picking up the win. Then Mustafa Ali comes around. Mustafa Ali, wet-faced, Muslim, just incredible jobber with Rollins moves. Always getting just shoved over to the top. And how are you looking more threatening or at least like a planner? You're supposed to be a leader and you continue to whine. And Retribution keeps jobbing. But if Mustafa Ali wins, he's not even the saving grace of his own jobber faction. It's really bad, bro. So, we end off with Riddle versus Mustafa Ali. At least they did something. Mustafa Ali found an opening where he could target the arm after drop kicking it. So even though Riddle still come around doing exploder suplexes, arm drags, drop kick the bro knee of Brenton. Soon as Mace started going up top, distracting him, Mustafa Ali came around hitting his finisher for the off the distraction. That's practically it. It was a head scissors slam. The match was better than the 6-man tag, but it was like just an impromptu, just to get some heat back for Mustafa Ali to have an excuse to have a title shot. So they completely cutting off that Kingston feud about him being bitter that he wasn't on the main event scene. I think people are forgetting this, and I don't know why, because no one gives a damn about Lucha House Party. Or Retribution. Ridiculous. I hate this team. I hope you get squashed out the core style, or we can bring back Cena, and he can be DDT'd twice on the concrete and still squash most of you jobbers. And AA freaking reckoning on those stupid little Thunderdome Minitrons, or they show the fans. I really hate this team. Then we have our Lumberjack match that was planned over by Shane McMahon to make sure there's no escape for The Miz. He will defend his title in just 2 weeks. 2 weeks. He loses the WWE Championship. People know that we're living it up over in the long term, and they have no star factor to sell over their pay-per-view because The Miz doesn't look winnable in any semblance of the form, other than back then when he was actually picking up wins against John Cena and Randy Orton. Lashley, he just took him one match. Continued getting tossed around over when Lashley even gorilla pressed him and tossed him over to Retribution. They weren't even angry that he literally tossed a full-sized man at them. Just tossed him back inside the ring. Babyfaces wanted nothing to do with him. Just completely spine-bustering Miz, tossing him over in the ring until he finally gets the Hurt Lock on him, winning in a dominant fashion, looking strong as hell, and now there's going to be a legitimacy in the world title again. Miz held that for like a minute, so like a legit minute. That's not even a phrasing that I'm going to use for a long time. Legit 2 weeks, and he loses it after cashing it in. What a way to go. I guess they'll have something to do with it, but what a short reign. And Lashley's now, for the first time ever, in my opinion, the first black WWE champion. I'm not counting Kofi Kingston. Kofi Kingston's irrelevant as hell. Oh, God, it's so goddamn boring. Plus, Orton spat out something again. Plus, there was a clone of Orton because he's talking to his voices in his head, and his voices are Randy Orton. And we're not finished with you. Obviously, trying to tease over the factor of The Fiend coming back. I just don't care about this feud. If you just ended it with The Fiend on fire or something, and possibly Alexa doing crazy stuff, like, why not just give her the belt if she's that implemented into a program with Orton? Like, she's supposed to be completely dangerous doing mind tricks. Why isn't she doing most of this stuff for the women's division? I just find this completely off-putting. Orton's not even doing anything at this point other than just teasing the factor that The Fiend is coming back. Possibly for a Mania rematch for a Firefly Funhouse match that most people are predicting. I'm not that compelled, even though this is supposedly a main feud that at least been months in the making, but had the most lackluster build, because the last time these guys wrestled was TLC. And as crazy that stuff was, I felt like it was a bit campy, and so was the entire match. And I'm just not that compelled to watch whatever's going to happen when The Fiend comes back with this half-burnt condom face pig mask. Like, I'm really feeling discontent with this whole Fiend character. I wish I wasn't, because many people have faith in it, but I surely don't. I felt like it lost its momentum when started losing to Goldberg and Strowman looking least threatening or complex, and we just know that it's just a basis on bitterness, and he just doesn't look that intimidating. Alexa been able to grow a character more than The Fiend has, and this is supposedly over his past, and I'm just looking. This is just less interesting in my opinion. That's just my opinion on the matter. I don't know how you guys feel. At least I like that there was more segments on Raw than necessarily they just go to match to match to match. They open with a vignette that goes over the previous week so you don't miss it. I like that type of stuff, and I'm liking that they're implementing more backstage segments into Raw that are actually more coherent to what's going on in the current process of the show and the storyline. So I'm respecting that. Not much else was that not compelling me to watch. The whole thing with The Miz, like having a time limit to lose his world title, it didn't implement Lashley looking threatening, or was that, compelling, because there's no rush to him losing the title. You have a main event slot. Nothing else was supposedly supposed to be main event level in the show. So obviously they were going to push it over in the main event. I think they just wanted to make it look fresh, but it just looked dumb. And it looked contrived, and it's repetitive, because they literally tried this last time when Lashley was supposed to get a shot the last week. So it just doesn't look that interesting. It's cool to see MVP with that cane, though, making him look like a real hard-on businessman. Too bad, like, the only reason the Hurt Business, and I'm going to say this because I don't mind the Hurt Business, because at least it looks like a legit faction, and we have a lack of that in WWE. But the only reason why the Hurt Business is important is because of MVP and Lashley. Just Shelton and Cedric, they're good wrestlers, but they're just athletes. Nothing else are contrived about the character. I guess you can say that, okay, Cedric is this cocky high flyer, because of course he brings up the most emotion whenever he's winning a match. But he has no other character. He keeps looking discontent. He does the same wrestling moves. I just don't look that conflicted. If they gave like Shelton at least some type of grizzled veteran type thing, maybe I feel more compelled. But already aren't like 3 of the Hurt Business are over their 40s, while Cedric is supposed to be the young guy. Yet Cedric has nothing over the standout because he just does the same move as anybody from 205 Live. That's just my opinion on the matter. Hopefully you guys feel differently. At least we got a new WWE champion. Show was meh at best. That's the best I'm gonna give it, bro. I wouldn't rewatch it. Even the main event, it was the best way, but it didn't feel that contrived or threatening. There was no creative way for even the Miz to make this last even like under a week before Fastlane. But that's just my opinion on the matter. Hopefully you guys feel differently. Like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Shout out to the question mark. Rest in peace to the question mark. I heard he sadly passed away due to medical problems, and he was my favorite part of watching NWA Power in my reviews. So yeah, blessings go out to his family. Hopefully they are doing all right, and of course Aaron Stevens, because of course he got to work with him. So that's all I can say. I think his other ring name was Josephus. Other than that, that's it for me.